The ocean, a vast, powerful expanse that has captivated and terrified humankind for centuries. While its surface can be tranquil, what lies beneath is a different story, a world of unknowns, where the horizon meets an uncertain fate. Many who set sail return with stories of adventure, but others, well, their tales take a darker turn. In 2007, 3 experienced sailors embarked on a routine trip off the coast of Australia, but what should have been a peaceful voyage would soon transform into something far more unsettling. An event so strange that it continues to baffle investigators and stir imaginations to this day. In April 2007, 3 Australian men, Derek Batten and brothers Peter and James Tunstead, set off aboard a 12-meter catamaran known as the Cas 2 on a leisurely sailing trip along the coast. They were all experienced sailors, well versed in the ocean's unpredictability, and their route from Airlie Beach in Queensland to Western Australia was meant to be calm and uneventful. The Cas 2 set sail on April 15th with calm waters and favorable weather. The trio had packed for days of fishing and relaxation as they meandered along the coast. Their plan was simple. They'd fish, sail, and take in the endless blue horizon. But what they didn't know was that this voyage would be their last. 3 days later, on April 18th, the Cas 2 was spotted again, but something wasn't right. The catamaran, once full of life and purpose, was now drifting aimlessly near the Great Barrier Reef, seemingly deserted. No signs of the crew could be seen from afar. Authorities approached the vessel, expecting perhaps a minor mishap, a radio failure, or a sudden illness. What they found, however, would set off one of the strangest investigations in maritime history. When the authorities boarded the Cas 2, what greeted them was an eerie scene. The sails, battered and torn, flapped listlessly in the wind, still raised as though awaiting the hands that had once controlled them. The engine, despite the absence of its crew, continued to hum softly in the background. Inside the cabin, the scene was even more unsettling. A table was set for a meal that had never been finished. Food lay half-eaten, undisturbed for days. A laptop remained on, quietly glowing in the dim light. The GPS continued to function, silently tracking a ghostly journey. Personal belongings, wallets, clothing, and life vests went untouched, exactly where the men had left them. The inflatable dinghy was still securely stowed, unused, and yet the crew was gone. It was as though they had been plucked from the yacht mid-action, leaving behind an unsettlingly normal scene. A frozen moment in time, aboard a boat adrift in eerie silence. No signs of a struggle, no distress signals, no damage suggesting a catastrophic event. Just 3 men, vanished without a trace. The disappearance of the crew triggered an immediate search effort. Helicopters, boats, and aircraft scoured the waters surrounding the Great Barrier Reef, hoping to locate the men, or at least find clues to explain their fate. The ocean, however, kept its secrets. Despite extensive efforts, no sign of the missing men was ever found. No bodies, no wreckage, just an empty vessel drifting on an endless sea. Investigators tried to reconstruct the catamaran's journey through the yacht's GPS data. They learned that the Cas 2 had sailed in normal patterns for several days after departing. But then, something inexplicable occurred. The boat began drifting aimlessly, its path erratic, as if it had been suddenly left without a captain or a crew. Yet the moment when disaster struck, and what exactly happened, remained shrouded in mystery. With no clear answers, speculation began to swirl. One of the leading theories is that the men had somehow ended up overboard. Perhaps one had fallen in while fishing or attempting to repair the tattered sails, and the others had tried to rescue him. But the sea currents around the Great Barrier Reef are strong and unforgiving. It's possible they were swept away, before they could once again reach the safety of the yacht. Still, this theory leaves many unanswered questions. Why was the boat left in near-perfect condition? Why hadn't the crew used any emergency equipment? The life vests, the dinghy, everything was in place, as though the men hadn't even had time to react. Some suggest that a rogue wave, a sudden towering wall of water, could have swept them overboard, but this theory too has its problems. The catamaran, while battered, wasn't significantly damaged. A rogue wave of that magnitude should have left behind more evidence: crumpled masts, torn sails, or some form of structural damage. But none of these signs were present. Other, darker possibilities have been suggested as well. Was there foul play? Piracy, perhaps? But the crew's personal belongings were left untouched, ruling out any robbery or even a struggle. The eerie stillness aboard the boat suggests that whatever happened, it came suddenly and without warning. But it's the small details that continue to haunt those who investigate the case. The half-eaten meal, the fishing lines drifting behind the boat, the humming engine. Each of these points to a tragedy that unfolded in moments, a fleeting disaster that swept away 3 experienced sailors, leaving no trace of their fate behind. Despite the extensive search efforts, the fate of Derek Batten and the Tunstall brothers remains one of the most chilling mysteries of the sea. They were experienced sailors, familiar with the ocean's dangers, and yet they vanished without a trace, leaving their boat adrift and their belongings untouched. To this day, the Kaz 2 is a haunting reminder of how little we truly know about the sea and its darker moods. The boat was eventually towed back to shore, but it serves as a silent witness to the terrifying reality of the ocean's ability to swallow even the most experienced seafarers whole. What really happened to the men aboard the Kaz 2? What forces, known or unknown, were at play that day? These are the questions that remain unanswered, lost somewhere beneath the waves. The ocean can be beautiful, but it can also be ruthless and indifferent. For the families of the missing men, the sea remains a cruel mystery, one that refuses to give up its secrets. The sea is far from just vast and deep. It's also full of mysteries. It's carried sailors and explorers across the globe for centuries, but it has also swallowed some of them whole, leaving only questions behind. In 1918, one such mystery unfolded. A massive U.S. Navy ship, the USS Cyclops, set out on a routine voyage from the coast of Brazil, laden with cargo and carrying over 300 souls. But as it sailed through the open waters, something went terribly wrong. The ship never reached its destination, and what happened to it has served to baffle experts for over a century now. In early March 1918, the USS Cyclops, a massive Navy cargo ship, embarked on a voyage from Brazil to Baltimore. The ship was over 500 feet long, capable of carrying heavy loads, and well regarded for its reliability. On this particular voyage, the Cyclops was transporting more than 10,000 tons of manganese ore, a crucial material for steelmaking during World War I. The ship had a crew of 309 men and passengers, including both sailors and civilians. Captain George Worley was in command, guiding the ship on what should have been a standard, uneventful trip. The Cyclops made a brief stop in the island nation of Barbados to resupply, and from there, it set out once more into the vast Atlantic Ocean, heading for the United States. All seemed normal. The seas were calm, the ship was well equipped, and its crew was beyond experienced. Yet, after leaving Barbados, the Cyclops was never heard from again. For days, the ship sailed into the expanse of the Atlantic without incident, or at least so it seemed. What happened next still remains a mystery. No distress calls were ever sent. no messages ever received. The Cyclops simply disappeared. When the ship failed to arrive at its destination in Baltimore, alarm bells rang. The Navy immediately launched a search, combing the ocean for any sign of the wayward vessel. But what they found was nothing. Despite an extensive search, there was no debris, no lifeboats, no oil slicks, and no sign of the ship's crew. The USS Cyclops had vanished without a trace, leaving little clue as to what had befallen its passengers and its crew. In the days and weeks following the disappearance, speculation ran rampant. How could a ship of this size simply disappear? One of the initial theories was that the Cyclops might have been the victim of enemy action. After all, the First World War was still raging, and the Atlantic was home to German U-boats patrolling for enemy vessels. But no German submarine ever reported engaging the ship, and there were no signs of an explosion or wreckage to suggest an attack. Another theory suggested that the ship encountered severe weather. The region where the Cyclops disappeared is known for its unpredictable storms and the occasional rogue wave. However, no storm of significant magnitude was ever reported. And again, there was no evidence to indicate that the ship had been caught in such an event. Some investigators considered the possibility of structural failure. The ship was carrying an extraordinarily heavy load of manganese, which may have strained its structure beyond its limits. If the ship had suffered a catastrophic hull failure, it could have sunk quickly, taking its crew down with it. But even in such a scenario, some debris would likely have been left behind, wreckage that simply never appeared. As the search for answers stretched on with no results, more unusual theories emerged. One of the most infamous involves the Bermuda Triangle, a region of the Atlantic known for the unexplained disappearances of ships and planes. The Cyclops' route passed through this area, and many began to wonder if it had fallen victim to whatever strange forces were at work in that part of the ocean. While some attribute the Bermuda Triangle's mysteries to magnetic anomalies or freak environmental conditions, others speculate about more paranormal explanations. But regardless of the theory, one fact remains. The USS Cyclops vanished into the ocean, and it never left a clue as to what took it down. Despite numerous investigations and countless theories, the disappearance of the USS Cyclops has never been solved. Now, over a century later, not a single piece of wreckage or a body from the ship has ever been recovered. For the families of those lost, the mystery has been a source of unending grief. No answers, no remains to bury, just the silence of an ocean that refuses to give up its dead. The USS Cyclops continues to be one of the most enigmatic ghost ships in maritime history. Some believe its disappearance was a tragic accident, while others are convinced that more sinister or supernatural forces were at play. The Navy has never been able to provide closure, and for those fascinated by the ocean's darkest mysteries, the story of the Cyclops is a reminder that the sea still holds secrets that we may never uncover. As time passed, the story of the Cyclops has become legendary, often mentioned alongside other inexplicable sea disappearances. Its name is synonymous with the untamed and unpredictable power of the ocean. Theories continue to emerge, some as outlandish as alien abduction or time warps, while others focus on more grounded possibilities, like navigational errors or undiscovered underwater hazards. But the fact remains, none of these theories have ever brought us any closer to understanding what happened on that fateful day in 1918. The disappearance of the USS Cyclops remains a chilling example of the ocean's vast and unknowable depths. No matter how much we explore, how much we map or track, the sea will always have the power to keep its darkest secrets hidden, locked away deep beneath the waves, where even the largest ships can vanish, leaving behind only the cold silence of unanswered questions. As we've shown in our first two stories, the sea has a way of keeping its secrets. Sailors know this, and so do those who've watched loved ones disappear beneath its waves, leaving not even a trace. It's vast, unpredictable, and often unforgiving. Even in modern times, when technology can guide and track nearly everything, the ocean can still surprise us by claiming lives and never explaining the how or the why. In 2007, a renowned computer scientist, Jim Gray, set out on what should have been a routine solo voyage off the coast of California. Gray was no stranger to the sea. He was an experienced sailor, and the weather was calm. But what happened next would leave his family, friends, and the world mystified. On January 28, 2007, Jim Gray, at the age of 63, set sail from San Francisco Bay aboard his sailboat, Tenacious. He was heading out to the Farallon Islands, a trip that he'd made many times before. A skilled yachtsman, Gray had decades of sailing experience under his belt, but this journey wasn't about adventure. It was deeply personal, because on this day, Gray was venturing out into open waters in order to spread his deceased mother's ashes. Gray's background was remarkable. He was a towering figure in the field of computer science, credited with innovations that revolutionized how we process data. He had received the Turing Award, often referred to as the Nobel Prize of Computing, for all of his contributions to database systems. His work was instrumental in shaping modern computing, from creating reliable database management systems to pioneering transaction processing, things that form the backbone of today's data-driven world. But as brilliant as he was in his career, Gray also held a love for the sea, a passion that he pursued with precision and dedication. Around 10:30 a.m. that morning, Gray made a phone call to his wife, updating her on his progress. He left a voicemail for his daughter, too, sounding both cheerful and optimistic. But from that point on, communication stopped. When Gray didn't return home by evening, his family grew concerned. But by the next morning, they knew something was wrong. The Coast Guard was alerted, and a massive search operation was launched. Boats, helicopters, and aircraft scanned the area between San Francisco and the Farallon Islands. Gray's boat was equipped with emergency signaling devices, including an emergency position indicating radio beacon, also known as an EPIRB, which should have activated if the vessel had encountered trouble. But there was no distress signal, no mayday call, just silence. The tech community, which Gray had been an integral part of, quickly joined the effort. Friends and colleagues used satellite technology to help search the waters from above, crowdsourcing thousands of satellite images, hoping to spot the missing sailboat. Despite the sophisticated technology and exhaustive efforts, no trace of Tenacious or Jim Gray was found. It was as if the sea had swallowed him whole, leaving zero evidence as to what had happened. Many theories emerged to explain Gray's disappearance, but none offered a clear answer. Some speculated that he may have suffered a sudden medical emergency, incapacitating him and leaving the boat to drift. However, the lack of any distress signal or evidence of the boat floating adrift cast doubt upon this idea. Others considered the possibility of a collision. Could Gray's boat have struck a submerged object or a large marine animal, causing it to sink quickly? A sudden capsize would explain the lack of wreckage, but typically, some debris would have floated to the surface. The section of ocean that he had made his destination, though vast, had been thoroughly searched, and nothing was to be found. More fantastical explanations involved rogue waves, which are rare, towering waves that can appear without warning and capsize even large vessels. And while theoretically possible, conditions that day didn't suggest such an event. Gray's disappearance remains a mystery, with the murky waters of the Pacific keeping its secrets close. Though Jim Gray vanished without a trace, his influence continues to ripple through the world of technology. His groundbreaking work in database management systems laid the foundation for the systems that we use today in everything from banking to cloud computing. Gray's work on transaction processing made databases more reliable and scalable, advances that are crucial to how data is handled globally. To honor Gray's contributions, Microsoft named the Gray Systems Lab after him, a facility focused on advancing data-driven technologies and software systems in a spirit of innovation. Furthermore, several prestigious awards have been established in his name, including the Jim Gray eScience Award, given to those who make significant contributions in using data and computational technologies to solve complex scientific problems. In the years following his disappearance, the tech community created Graywolf, a computational cluster developed to handle data-intensive computing tasks, once again named in his honor. Gray's influence extended far beyond his immediate field, as evidenced by the awards and acknowledgments left in his name. These honors serve as a testament to Gray's lasting impact, ensuring that his name will remain synonymous with progress in technology long after his disappearance. Jim Gray's vanishing remains a haunting mystery. For someone so accomplished and prepared, this disappearance seems almost impossible. No matter how much technology we possess, the ocean retains its power to mystify, to conceal its secrets in great depths. Despite the best efforts of friends, family, and the global tech community, no trace of Gray has ever been found. What happened to Jim Gray on that quiet January day? Did the sea claim him in some unforeseen disaster? Was it a freak accident, or something more mysterious? The questions linger, but the answers may never come. As we ponder the fate of Jim Gray, we are reminded of the duality of the ocean, its beauty and its danger, both its capacity to inspire and to take without warning. In his absence, Jim Gray's legacy continues to grow, his influence in technology still felt in systems and software we use every day. He may be gone, but his work, his spirit of innovation, and the questions surrounding his disappearance endure. Thank you so much for watching this video or listening to the podcast. We truly appreciate your support and hope you enjoyed diving into these oceanic mysteries with us. If you'd like to help us continue creating more content like this, consider signing up for our Patreon. Your support allows us to keep exploring fascinating stories and mysteries from around the world. Plus, becoming a supporter, you'll gain access to early and exclusive content just for you. Find us at patreon.com/Malevolent Mischief. Thanks again for checking out this episode, and like always, I hope to catch you on the next one.